Hello everybody! Let's take a break from all the food prep and talk about electricity for once. And what better place to look for that than this little robot right here. Ladies and gentlemen, I am super excited to present you all the one and only Power. Ah yes, Power. Now this is a character that I've anticipated covering for ages now, as there's quite a lot I have to say about this little guy, so let's waste no time and get this ball a-rollin'. 212, or more affectionately dubbed Power, POW R, a play on the word power, is an Ampbot from the movie WALL-E, of course. Belonging to the Axiom's maintenance class, the power units were developed by and large as the ship's first line of defense against system-crippling battery failures and power outages. Constantly roaming hallways and breaker compartments, they'll take over in the event of a power cut or blackout by inserting their probe hands into electrical outlets, providing electricity to equipment, or even returning entire sections of the ship to full power. Pretty nifty, huh? I assume that they can also do the inverse, being able to drain the power from something, sucking it out like a leech. Or in this case, like an electrobab. Please tell me you know what that actually is. Please tell me I'm not the only one here who knows what I'm talking about. Anyways, let's just get into his design already. His small yet proportionally large, blocky white head has a thick black base that ascends up his back and has various creases surrounding it. This base is what allows him to hover along the floor, and on either side of his head is his number, along with a barcode. His face boasts a tall, thin vision screen, displaying one circular light blue eye, next to a pair of vertical orange stripes, and a faint B&L logo imprinted slightly above it. On the back of his roof appears to be a panel that can be opened up for general maintenance, or even for refilling/replacing his charging batteries. And let's not forget about his large orange backpack, which has 5 vertical vents on it, presumably to help him avoid overheating. Though, before I continue forward, I just want to point out that when I was a little one, the shape of his head would often remind me of a certain kitchen appliance, that being, well, a toaster. And can you really blame me for thinking that? Even his vision screen is kinda shaped like a bread slot. Anyways, moving on. Keeping his arms in place are these gray circular attachment pieces, along with these large shoulder pads, almost resembling the fenders of a car. His limbs themselves are long, white, and lanky, with silver-gray joints and little black elbow caps, and sitting on the ends of his orange wrists are not a set of hands, but a pair of black electrical test probes. These little mechanisms are what he uses to juice things up, meaning his arms must be laced with plenty of electrical cords, channeling and transferring the energy from some sort of vital battery chamber in his head towards these black pokers. At first glance, without any prior outside context, these hands might come off as inherently useless, lacking any dexterity and everything, but as you and I know, they secretly hold an ability that is seemingly exclusive to him. Just like with the Carnotaurus and Prehistoric Planet, even the most laughable of limbs can serve some sort of purpose. But back on track though, this guy's design is pretty simple actually, but I really like it. He's pretty much just a little stump with sticks coming out each side, but that just makes him extra adorable.
Oh! Oh, look at this tiny box! Oh, it's so tiny!
Now, something you're all probably asking right now is, can this guy use his electrical abilities in combat, like how Defib can? You know, to zap some fools? Well, my own personal answer to that would be probably not. Look, I don't want to ruin the fun of it all. I mean, the image of this toaster-looking ass electrocuting someone is pretty dang funny. And I can't exactly measure the electrical output that Power is capable of or anything, However, if he were to pose any potential danger to your safety, you'd expect to see some sort of cautionary voltage warning labeled on his body, much like what Defib has. But he doesn't have one. Plus, Defib's sensory pads are based around direct contact, while Power's probes are a lot more complex. Think of it like the difference between a phone charger and an electric stove. You can't really hurt yourself that much with a phone charger, but if you were to leave that stove sitting turned on for a while, youch. Scenes with Power may seem a lot more scarce than usual, partially because they're an emergency-centered robot, and because several of them are miscolored and fully white, making them difficult to spot out. Some of them are seen heading up and down the hallways, presumably rushing to areas of the ship in desperate need of an electrical boost. One of them is about to collide into Moe's robot pileup. A total of 3 go about their day when Eve flies overhead, and another is seen watching Light make a fool of himself, alongside a handful of other bystanders. And at long last, now's the time we can start talking about the rogue robot himself. The reject Power can be found in Section 3B of the Repair Ward, alongside other standouts like Vacuum, and sitting directly across the room from him is Cardus, who I've always associated with this guy. I like playing around with the idea of him and Cardus being partners in crime. These two troublesome little tricksters who enjoy pulling pranks on the other robots. They're a fun-loving pair who go together so well, like peanut butter and strawberry jelly. Obviously, none of this is official or confirmed, but I just find it pretty fun imagining it that way. I also tend to view the Reject Power as the balloon boy of the group. I mean, he's clearly much shorter and potentially more childish and annoying than some of the others, much like how Balloon Boy is.
You little fat squeaker, little
But most importantly, he's all about batteries and stuff. And if you know anything about Balloon Boy, it's that he loves his precious batteries.
I don't really care if he's Freddy. I'm just trying to get my hands on his sweet, succulent AA batteries.
Okay, back to the actual facts. He has a red boot going from rear to roof, and he can noticeably be seen shivering and quivering in some shots. This is either a malfunction due to faulty wiring, or just some fearful behavior of his.
I'm so startled.
Perhaps he's petrified of being kept in the repair ward, which makes sense. This place can feel like a robot mental asylum at times. In a way, he's about as much of a shaking one-eyed robot as the shaking one-eyed robot. Huh, how about that? He can just barely be seen very far away just down the hallway when first entering the repair ward, and later when Wally gets put in place, he's seen very up close, looking around at his surroundings and at his neighbor Van Gogh, who's leaving a big mess for himself, while continuing to shake and shudder. Whenever people might think of Power, this shot of him right here is probably the first thing that pops into their head. Quite unfortunately, he isn't seen again until after Wally tumbles out of his pen, breaks into the diagnostics room, and sets everybody free, including Power, of course. He happily jumps from his enclosure and dances around with all his friends. He then turns his attention towards Wally, looking through the hole in the wall, and bounds and smashes his way through the glass, gladly helping to pick Wally up. As his master gets taken away, he, while in the back of the crowd, waddles along towards the exit, where you can later find his arm sticking out behind Fix-It, which is a detail that took me forever to find. Then, of course, deep within the swarm of loose rejects, he charges down the gangways, flailing his arms, only to run into the back end of a vulnerable random pedestrian robot before getting halted by the stewards. Right here, he cautiously hides away behind this big dude, making it easy to forget that he's even there.
Was that someone peeking in? What the heck?
No, that can't be anyone.
A slight sliver of him can be found in that one profile shot when Wally gets pushed forward, and following that, he comes out of hiding and gets to witness firsthand when Eve barges into the scene. He then ends up having his photo taken, which causes him to cower away again behind his bigger nearby friend, before things get any worse, and right after Eve dashes away with Wally, he seizes the moment and escapes while he still can. Now at the tail end of the group, he swerves and wiggles around underneath Helmet before turning sharply to his right. And shocker, as we've all come to expect by now, he unfortunately never appears again after this. But maybe that could potentially change someday. Who knows?
Like that's ever gonna happen. What a load.
Now, before we move on to all the secondary content, I quickly just want to explain something from Bernie. Near the start of the short film, Supplier receives a message and presses a nearby button that's labeled Power. And that raises the question, does this mean Power's name isn't really Power since it's used elsewhere? While I'm pretty sure that this was just a coincidence, I actually think this only happened in-universe because the Power name pun can be used anywhere, not just as the name of a robot. That's my explanation anyway. This is less of an appearance for Power and more so just something for knowledge's sake. Now, with that out of the way, Power was miraculously given a robot file to call his very own. This is where we learned of his name and occupation, of course, and where the narrator makes this joke.
Batteries sold separately.
Ha 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 ha, so funny. Though, could this mean Power actually does rely on replaceable batteries to operate? Like the kind of batteries you could purchase from your local superstore? I doubt it. Many of the additional tidbits given in the robot files seldom mean anything to begin with. Power also made a brief cameo at the start of the Fleet of Bots video, and was given the privilege of having his own special appearance later on, giving us a fantastic look at every detail on his body. It's here where he's also named Lifter?
Huh?
Yeah, if you couldn't tell, my friends, this was a mistake. This isn't like the serve/tennis situation, no. Lifter was actually the name given to a White Hands lookalike that serves a similar job to that of 947. So yeah, something screwy definitely happened here. But it is a bit funny once you consider that a small, low-to-the-ground droid like Power, who doesn't even have hands, wouldn't really be the best at lifting things. His full body image was featured in the RoboKit video, which is our only look at it, not like we need it in better quality anyway though. Throughout various Pixar encyclopedias, he's usually described properly, but sometimes he's mislabeled as a repair bot. This poor little dude just can't catch a break, now can he? And finally, as expected, that one pre-development shot gives us even more of our beloved Reject as he scoots around the hallway in a temporary white getup. But sadly, after all that, Power just fell into the void and was eventually forgotten about. That is, if it weren't for the fans preserving his memory. As is the case with every robot with an officially given name, Power has had a healthy chunk of fan art made around him. In some of these pieces, he is inaccurately portrayed with claws, or even flying, but those are small, forgivable, and understandable misconceptions. And that, my friends, is Power. A very comical and interesting character for sure, and oh my goodness, he most certainly left a pretty big spark. He's definitely as jewel as a cucumber, truly on the surge of greatness. Okay, the puns are becoming a bit much, I'm so sorry. Anyways, I genuinely really do enjoy this character's presence. He's clearly a very cheeky, cute little scamp who embodies both childlike innocence and fun, but still has the desire to get work done. Oh hey, that rhymed. He manages to stand out thanks to his intriguing job, goofy bodily proportions, and quirky animations. Fingers crossed that we'll get to see more of him in the future, because you know what they say, big things come in small packages.